Boy, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but Mizzou stands on business. Got another win, 31-33 over the Florida Gators. Don't even know what that means. I don't know what standing on business means.
You didn't do it right, because if you did it like Eli, you would have ran away from your desk.
Oh my gosh. My gosh. The victories couldn't come to a worse person. I cannot stand this guy.
Oh, I agree.
He's leading a really good ball club, but my gosh, I can't stand this guy. Listen, Mizzou, I think, showed you their character in this game against Florida on Saturday night by losing the lead late, if I remember this right.
Correct.
And then turning around, putting a drive together, and then the thicker kicker knocking down a 30-yard field goal. I believe they had a pretty big third or fourth down conversion, pretty long one.
Huge one.
Yeah.
17, 18 yards. I'm getting back to it while you proceed.
I mean, just, man, excellent on their part. Again, I think Mizzou showed you their character, who they are, what they're capable of doing. Don't count them out. Hate to say this as well, but arguably the Tennessee from 2022 this go around.
Missouri?
Yes.
Arguably, yeah. They just, they do it in a slightly different way in kind of like you've said about Washington. Tennessee loved to step on your throat or to flat out pull away with the long ball while mixing in plenty of run game. And they are just they're astounding on the ground to me, because they do so much stretch, so much outside zone.
Yeah.
And they have the perfect, they execute it to dang near perfection. It's beautiful. It is old school. It's beautiful.
Sure.
You don't expect to see it from a guy like Cody Schrader. You don't expect Brady Cook to be a guy that is kind of a dog, frankly. But he is. Burden is certainly a dog, and Burden was who he found on 4th and 17 for 27 yards to pick that up. I can only imagine Billy Napier standing there on the sideline, pulling out little baby hairs out of the side of his head, because that's about all he's got. And that being the way, if you're him and you're really winning with recruits, you're really doing more with Graham Mertz than has ever been done. And I think he was knocked out of the game by that point, and Max Brown was in. And that is the way that you miss bowl eligibility unless you beat Florida State.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frankly, that when you talk about the moments that get coaches fired, that could be one of them. You miss bowl eligibility in your second year. You barely made it your first year. They get off to a poor start with the brutal schedule they have in 2024. I mean, these are the moments. And it's not like getting 6-6 or 7-5 is going to, make him be there for 5 or 10 years. But these are the moments that expedite it.
Sure. No, I'm with you, man. Florida's season is going to come down to hosting Florida State, and Florida State again without Jordan Travis. You're either staring at 5 or 7 or 6-6. But I didn't expect for Florida to hang around with Mizzou like the way they did. I think they showed some testicular fortitude as well in that fight, because I do think that Mizzou is hands down better than Florida. But here we are, and they did it with Max Brown coming into the game, going 4 for 5, 56. I believe he had a long run. He did. Set a run of 27 on a keeper. But man, what I meant by Mizzou being the 2022 Tennessee Volunteers is that they just kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, you weren't going to tell me in 22 going into the season that we were going to go 10-2. Neither one of us predicted that. Nope. And neither one of us predicted Mizzou to be going 10-2 right here either, but they're about to do it. Traveling up to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I mean, Mizzou's favored by 7.5. We'll see what we get out of Sam Pittman in Arkansas, but I'm gonna take Mizzou in that one.
Oh yeah.
But I'll just say this, man. I really don't have much else. Props to Mizzou. I mean, good for them. Yeah, no, they're good. They're good.
They are good. Tell you this, man. They're good, and I believe I've talked about it on here. I've talked about it with like everybody I know, but they're set up for success in 2024 because of the schedule that they play, because they've got Burden and Cook back, and I presume with how they execute it this year that they can find someone serviceable for their run game, losing Cody Schrader, obviously. But they absolutely had better leverage some recruiting out of this, because I believe they're currently sitting dead last in the SEC in recruiting.
Yeah, yeah,
and we don't we don't talk about recruiting in the smaller picture, in the more day-to-day picture. We talk about it as a whole. You got to fix these holes. You got to do XYZ in recruiting. You better not finish dead last. Obviously, signing day's approaching, but
sure.
you're walking into it dead last, and you've got the number one player in the nation committed while doing so. How does that work?
I don't know.
Williams Nwaneri committed. I think he's moved up to number one. He's a freak. But as we do know this, one guy can't win you a lot of games. One guy can't sustain 8 to 10 win seasons and keep you in your job if you're Eli Drinkwitz. You got to be able to replace Cook eventually. Right. You've got to replace Schrader next year. And, they haven't had a Luther Burden type guy in several years.
No, you're right. I mean, Cam Newton is about the only one that's, who could turn Auburn into what they were in 2010. And
amen.
So, yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. Well, nonetheless, props to Mizzou. Good win for them. Hosting Florida, getting the win, 31-33.
Pandemonium reigns.